Okay, here is the second video with the last part of the review, starting with question 6. George, a senior at the high school, earns $14 an hour as a server cook at Bill Gray's. George uses the function W of H equals 14H to determine how much money his weekly pay is. W of H, or the Y, after working H hours. George's parents still believe school is George's primary job and restrict his work hours to a maximum, that's the most, 3 hours a day after school, Monday and Wednesday, so that's why I have the threes there, and 6 hours each Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, so that's why I put 6 under all three of those. Write the domain for the function. So this is actually the question on the original key that I had kind of messed up with. So the domain is going to be our H, the hours. Okay. So we want to know what the smallest amount up to the greatest amount. So I'm actually going to put some addition signs here, because what I need to do is add up all these numbers, and that's actually pretty simple. 6 plus 3 is 9, plus 3 is 12, plus another 12 is 24. So what is the domain? Now, originally what I said is, this can only be positive integers, because in my mind I'm thinking, 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour, 4 hour. But for any of you that have ever worked in the real world know that it doesn't always go like that. You can actually work a shift that might be 2.5 hours or 2.25 hours. Usually they go by quarters and halves. But in any case, it can actually be fractions and decimals. So the domain, the number of hours, can actually be real numbers. So what I'm going to say is the minimum is going to be 0, and then is less than or equal to. And then also in the key, I had used X when I should probably use what they give me, which is H for hours, right? Which is less than or equal to my maximum, which is 24. So the domain goes from 0 to 24. If you want to use interval notation, you certainly could do that and go from 0 to 24. Remember, we use the square bracket to indicate that it's equal to. Got to pause my recording. Sorry about that. Can't have the phone ringing in the background when I'm trying to make a video. Okay, on to the next question. Using your answer from part A, so that's up here, write the range of the function. And the reason you have to use this is because, keep in mind, the range is going to be my minimum and maximum value for how much George can earn. Now, if I plug in my minimum number of hours, which is 0, and multiply 14 times 0, well, that's pretty simple. I'm going to get 0 hours, right, or $0. So if George doesn't work, George don't get paid. If I plug in the maximum, which is 24, because remember, his parents don't let him work too much, you multiply 14 and 24, and you get 336. So I'm going to use that to make my range, okay? My Y values, or the W of H, okay? W of H. All right, so range is going to be curly bracket. And again, keep in mind, I know that we're using a whole number like 14, but it's money. And we might have partial hours, so we could actually end up with some fractions and decimals in here as well. So this is not going to be integers. So we can use something like 0 is less than or equal to. And I think my original key, I put Y. Let's use what they give us. W of H is less than or equal to 336. This is the correct way to do it. Or interval notation, 0 to 336, and anything in between, right? Okay. Last question, or last part, to question 6. Determine the value of m of 15 and explain using the context of the problem. All right, so I'm going to find the value first by substituting it into our formula. Remember, our formula is 14 times whatever we've got. Well, 14 times 15 is equal to 210. So what the heck does that mean? Well, that means this. So George, this means that, oops, don't want that. This means that George will get, or will make, excuse me, will earn $210 if he works 15 hours in a week. So whatever number we're substituting in for H is our number of hours. When we plug it into our formula, our function, we get a number back. That's how much is earned. That is what this means by in the context of the problem. Okay? Again, not some super overcomplicated math here. In fact, pretty simple math, but that is question 6. Pause the recording and meet you at question 7. Okay, question 7. Graph x squared minus 2 over all real numbers from -2 is less than x. So this, they're giving us the domain. So here's the domain, and we got to find the range, the y values. X is between -2 and 3. So I'm going to write these numbers down. -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3. Yes, I already created a table. Look at that. I always do that. Real numbers, by the way, that is very important because what that means is, and we saw this earlier in the review, this is continuous data, right? This is continuous. And what does that mean? Continuous means we connect the dots. So when we graph this, we need to connect the dots. If it was discrete, or connect the points, I'll just say dots. All right, so if I plug in -2, you can use your calculator. -2 times -2, because -2 squared, is 4. 4 minus 2 is 2. -1 squared is 1, minus 2 is -1. 0 squared is 0, minus 2 is -2. 1 squared, all right, so this is actually what's called a parabola. So the pattern here is recognizable if you know what to look for. All right, so I'm going to plot those points. So -2, +2, right there. -1, -1, right there. 0, -2, there, there, and then 3, 7, boom. Okay, so we have our points, and like I have already said, let's see if I can do this without messing it up on the first try. And I'm going to connect the dots, connect my points, because it's continuous, and I want to count the points in between, because real numbers are fractions and decimals. So all these points in between, I don't have to calculate them. I don't have to find them. I just have to acknowledge that they're there. By the way, just remember that where this came from, -2 squared minus 2 is equal to 2. -1 squared, this is just, again, kind of just showing a little bit of work, equals -1, and then so on, okay? All right, so there is a part B, determine the range. Well, we've got the numbers right here, from 2 to 7, and we are including, so if this is the domain, we can make the range basically look like this. So I got to find my smallest value, which is -2, and go up to my biggest value, which is 7, okay? So it looks like this. And I'm going to put y in the middle. And it's going to be, and I'm including the number at the bottom, which is -2, because it's a shaded in, it's a point. And the biggest number, which is 7. We could do interval notation. By the way, this is the range, so I'll put it in curly brackets. Or I can do interval notation from -2 to 7, whichever you prefer, okay? And you're done. That is it for question 7. Actually, pretty simple, right? One more to go. I'm going to pause the recording and meet you. Okay, question 8. Let w of x equal 8x minus 9. So we have our equation, our function. Does w of 3 minus w of 2 equal w of 1? You cannot just look at this and say, oh yeah, 3 minus 2 is 1. It is not how this works. You actually have to substitute, use this formula, and substitute 3 in for x here. Here you have to substitute 2 in for x. And here you have to substitute 1 in for x. And then you have to find what the answer is and see how this works. So watch. 8 times 3 is 24 minus 9. 24 minus 9, well, 24 minus 10 is 14, so this must be 15, okay? So W of 3 equals 15. Put that up here. W2, 16 minus 9. Again, W of 2 is equal to 7. So I'll put that above this over here. All right, so right away, 15 minus 7. Well, that's 8, right? So let's see what happens when I do W of 1. 8 minus 9 equals negative 1. Wait a second. That's not right. 15 minus 7 is not negative 1. So, does this equal, does W of 3 minus W of 2 equal W of 1? Justify your response. Well, my justifying is the work that I just did. This does not equal negative 1. So I'll just put that in my explanation, and then I'll be all done. So, no, W of 3 minus W of 2 does not equal W of 1, because 15 minus 7 equals 8, not negative 1. Exclamation point with emphasis. All right, that is it. That is how you do this quiz. If you've got any questions or don't understand something, or if you find any mistakes that I made in this video, please let me know. Otherwise, good luck, and I will see you in math.